welcome to Family Cooking Time with Gingerbread House. Oh my! Today we're going to show you everything you need to know to make this classic gingerbread house. This first video is going to focus just on baking, on making the cookies, and then the next video will be decorating. So, your kit will include the following ingredients: 2/3 of a cup brown sugar, 1 teaspoon baking soda, 2 tablespoons of ginger, 1/2 teaspoon of cloves, 5½ cups of flour, 1 cup of flour in a separate bag that's going to be a little bit smaller, 1 printed paper pattern. From home, you will need 1 cup or 2 sticks of butter, salted butter would be better, 2 eggs, 1/2 cup of molasses. If you don't have molasses, you can use maple or pancake syrup. You'll need a mixing bowl and some way to mix. A stand mixer would be best, but you could use a fork or a hand mixer. Some parchment paper, a pair of scissors, a rolling pin or something to roll out your dough with, some cookie sheets. You're going to line those with parchment paper, a knife of some kind, the biggest spatula you can find, and that's it. So we're going to start by putting our butter into our mixer. It would be best if the butter was soft, but mine isn't, so I'm just going to use my mixer to make it smooth. If your butter is soft, it'll be much faster than I'm going here to make it soft. You don't want to cream the butter too much. We're not trying to overmix because we don't want a lot of air to get into the batter. So really, you just want to beat until it's smooth, and then you're going to add the sugar and mix just until it's combined. Once it's combined, it will look kind of like this. I usually take my beater, and especially because my butter wasn't soft, I use the beater just to scrape the bowl. Make sure you're getting a good, thorough mix here. You just want everything evenly distributed. So I like to do this kind of by hand and with the mixer. The mixer does the heavy lifting, and then I kind of use my arm to get the rest of the even distribution. So then with the mixer on, I usually, that is when I will add the pancake syrup or the molasses. I recommend keeping your mixer on the lower setting while you're pouring it in, and then turning it up if you need to, if it's not getting mixed in. You don't want molasses to go all over your kitchen, so start at a lower speed and go higher if you need to. And then again, I just scrape the bowl with the beater and making sure I'm getting that thorough distribution. Once the molasses is mixed in, then we are going to take our eggs. This is a great time to let your kids try. Go ahead and crack 1 egg and then crack the second egg directly into the mixing bowl. Make sure you wash your hands after you crack your eggs. And then go ahead and mix those in at the lower speed on your mixer, or again, if you're using a fork or a hand mixer, you just don't want it to go everywhere. You're just looking to get everything thoroughly incorporated. You don't want to mix past the point that things get incorporated, because we don't want any extra air to get into this dough. By now your mixture should be pretty goopy, so you probably don't need to scrape again if you're using a stand mixer. Next, I'm going to add in the ginger, the 2 tablespoons of ginger, the 1/2 teaspoon of cloves, the baking soda, and then the first half of the flour. You don't want to do all of the flour at once, because if you try and do that in your stand mixer, flour will go all over your kitchen, which can be kind of fun, but not a great time to clean up. On the lowest setting, just mix this until the flour starts to get incorporated, and then add the second half of your flour. Once you get the second half of the flour in there, go ahead and put your mixer back down. Put it again on the lowest setting. We only want to mix, I do this kind of technique where I just turn it on and off again really quickly, because your mixer will be pretty full. So that makes sure that flour doesn't go all over your kitchen again. So once your dough has come together, go ahead and turn it off. carefully. You can use, again, with clean hands, wash your hands. This is a fun part for the kids to do as well. Scrape the extra dough off of the beater because you're going to need probably all of it. So I use my hands and just try and get as much of the extra dough off of the beater as I can. This is another reason we use the paddle attachment. There we go. Again, wash your hands after you've done this. Then once we've got all of our dough ready and mixed together, we're going to put out some plastic wrap, or you could use wax paper, or you could use parchment paper, or you could actually just leave it in the bowl if you like, but I like to make these little packets. I take a spatula here, and I'm just taking all of the dough out of the bowl and putting it onto the plastic wrap, and we're going to make a little packet so that it can go into the fridge. Your dough will probably be a little bit sticky. If it's not, don't worry about it, but it will probably be at least a little bit sticky, but it should stay together in a lump. And then we're just going to wrap the plastic wrap around it so that it will sit in the refrigerator. You want to let this dough chill for about 2 hours. It'll be a little bit difficult to roll it out when it comes time to do that, but you're going to have better results the colder your dough is. So I would say at least 2 hours in the refrigerator. You want to let this dough rest in the top shelf will be the coldest. That's what I would recommend. While your dough is chilling, you can go ahead and take some parchment paper and line a couple of cookie sheets with it. If you have a hard time getting your parchment paper to stick on your cookie sheet, spray it with some Pam first and then go ahead and stick the parchment paper on it. It'll stick a lot better. Next, we're going to cut out our patterns. This is what we're going to use to make the shapes for our gingerbread house. So just go ahead and take some scissors, follow the black lines. You'll need one of each of these. They should come in your kit. So we have our front, our roof, and our side pieces. So we're going to liberally flour our countertop wherever we're going to roll. And again, we're going to do our palms up and then shake your hand back and forth. That's how I learned how to do it in pastry school. It's the way to get the best distribution of flour on your countertop. And we're going to get our packet out of the refrigerator. Once we've unwrapped our packet of dough, we're actually not going to work with the whole lump at once because we don't want to overwork it too much. What we're going to do is instead just go ahead, you can rip it, you can use your big knife if you want, cut it in half. And then we are going to, again, go hard on the flour because you don't want this to stick to the countertop at all. This is a great time to let your kids go ahead and start helping. We are going to roll out this dough. You want it to be about 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch in thickness. So you just take your rolling pin, top down pressure. If you rotate it like this, the bigger it gets, it'll be difficult to rotate. But if you can rotate it like that, you can make sure that it's not sticking to the countertop, which is going to be really important when we go to cut out these big shapes. So I'm just rolling with my rolling pin. Again, we're going for 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch thickness. And you need a big enough area. With that half, you should get enough to do both of your front pieces. So we're just going to lay our paper pattern pieces on top of the rolled out dough. I'm just trying to figure out here what the best way is to fit them. If I can fit them sideways, that's probably not going to work. Maybe the other way is better. And then, maybe I'll just be able to fit one. Anyways, we're going to take our big knife and just cut outside of the paper pattern. Just following the lines of the pattern with your knife. And go ahead, if you have little scraps like that, just put them back in the big pile of the other half of the dough we didn't use. And you want to make straight lines here, as straight as you can. So if you have a big knife, this is a part for the adults to do. You want to be careful and just make your lines as straight as possible. If you go past a little, don't worry about it. Okay, so now we've cut our front piece, and we're going to take our spatula and our parchment paper. If you have a spatula that has a funky edge like this, I wouldn't recommend it, but this is the biggest one I have access to. You can see mine sticks a little bit, and then the funky edge on my spatula doesn't really help. If you have a rounded edge spatula, that's going to be the easiest for you, and you're just going to carefully with the spatula and your hand lay your dough out on the cookie sheet. This is probably a part that's going to be best for the adults to do because you do want to make sure that the shape of your house doesn't get messed up on the traveling from the countertop to the cookie sheet. But you can always take your big knife and use that to kind of push and straighten your edges. Again, we want those nice clean lines. That's what's going to make the gingerbread house look the best when we're all done. Now, the nice thing about making gingerbread houses, which is different than when we make other kinds of rolled out cookies, it doesn't really matter how much we work the dough. You see here that mine kind of stuck, so I decided to roll it out again. Normally when you're making like sugar cookies that are decorated that we roll out and cut with cookie cutters, you don't want to roll out the dough too many times because that'll make a tough cookie. But the good news is you're not really eating the gingerbread house, so it doesn't really matter how tough the dough gets. So if you make a mistake, feel free to lump it back into your dough and roll it out again and try again. It's totally fine. And you can see here I'm just cutting the other end of the house. It's the front piece, but it will be the front and the back of the house once we go to assemble it. The two pieces are identical. So you need 2 of the front pieces, 2 of the side pieces, and 2 of the roof piece. You can see here how I have the smooth bits on top. The smooth surface is really what is going to make your house look good, as well as the nice sharp edges. So I take my pattern off, and then again, very carefully, I use my funky spatula here and my hand to just, as quickly as possible, transfer the cookie from the countertop to my cookie sheet. And we're going to repeat that process for the side and the roof pieces. And again, if you get a little wrinkle as you're moving it, you can use your big knife as kind of a straight edge to scoot the edge of your dough into place. Go ahead and store that in the refrigerator while you are cutting out the rest of your pieces. If you only have one cookie sheet, you're going to want to put it in the refrigerator, bake it, and then roll out the other pieces. So here I'm just rolling out some dough to use the roof and for the roof pieces, and we're going to do the exact same thing for the side pieces, so I'm not going to show it to you, but what you're going to do is go ahead and take your knife and cutting along the short edge here, we're going to take that line and I'm actually going to extend it past as long as my knife will go, really. And I'm going to just use that to cut one big long line because the roof and the sides are both perfect rectangles, or pretty close to perfect. So if you just cut one out, you can use the straight edge of one side of it to be the edge of the other piece. So you can see I've got one piece and then I'm just using that same cut to be the other edge of the other piece. Now I can get that out of the way, and then I'm just going to go along the top here. So these two pieces should be about exactly the same. The roof pieces are going to be a little bit bigger than the side pieces. And I'm going to finish up that line with my knife, and then get away the excess. Take the paper pattern off. You can fix any little weird dents with your fingers. Just be gentle and kind of lightly tap things back into place. Like I got a little lump there from the hilt of my knife. So I'm just kind of trying to reform it back into a rectangle. Okay, then again, what we're going to do is take our spatula and very carefully lift our pieces from the countertop that we rolled the dough out on and pick them up and put them onto our sheet pan quickly. So, got one in there, and then I'm going to just straighten the edge again with my fingers or with my knife, and then I'm going to take the other one on my spatula and put it right next to it on the sheet pan. And again, the process is exactly the same for the side pieces. So we are going to preheat our oven to 350. While your oven's preheating, put the pieces in the refrigerator. And then we're going to bake the pieces for 12 minutes. You can see we've got 2 front pieces, 2 side pieces, and then 2 roof pieces here. The roof pieces will be a little bit bigger. You can see mine didn't turn out perfectly rectangular, but that's okay because it's handmade. Here's all of the pieces you will need: 2 sides, 2 fronts, and 2 roof pieces. And then in the next video, I'm going to show you how to put it all together and decorate it.